Good morning, YouTube. I'm back with a massive update to my channel. So, as you can see here, this is not the computer that that's normally on my channel. That computer is over there, my Air 540 with a IVE Rampage 4 Black Extreme and a 980 Ti. I added a 1080 Ti to that last year, and you know, I had it cooled by an AIO, and it was nice. But what I started to realize was that I was experiencing a severe CPU bottleneck in a lot of my games, and I started, researching, and I feel like an idiot because I thought my 4930K was still a decent CPU, and I was just going by, by frequency. It can do 4.5 gigahertz, and I really wasn't familiar with IPC count, instructions per cycle, etc. And the newer CPUs have really come along like you take a Kaby Lake or a Skylake CPU that runs at the same frequency, and because of the greater IPC count, it just performs a lot better. Like if my hex core 4930K, if it were to simulate a quad core, it would only do about maybe 11,000 CPU in Firestrike, whereas a 6700K and a 7700K at the same frequency could do about 14,000, 15,000 CPU in Firestrike. So that's the difference. And so when I realized this, I started to like, wow, I really wanted to upgrade, and I almost pulled the trigger on a 6700K locally on Craigslist, and the seller was trying to jive me. Anyhow, long story short, I skipped right over Kaby Lake and Skylake and went straight for Coffee Lake, and boy, am I impressed. I've always wanted to do a water cooling build, and I'm glad that I couldn't afford to do so earlier, because I would have had to buy a new monoblock, a new GPU block, etc. I finally did it now with a system that I think is relatively future-proof. This should be good for a few years. I've had this the Air 540 IVE build since 2014, and yeah, it got long in the tooth. It's no longer adequate in my opinion. But yeah, anyways. Let's try to keep this short as possible. I have a tendency to ramble on, so I apologize. I'll try to give you guys all the details quickly as I can. Okay, motherboard. Gigabyte RS Gaming 7, GPU, 1080 Ti FE, RAM, G-Skill, Trident Z, 2x8, 3200 megahertz, which it does in XMP. That RAM wasn't on Gigabyte's qualified vendor list, and I didn't realize this until after I had acquired the RAM during Black Friday from Newegg. It was on sale for like $150. I got lucky for that speed. But I contacted both G-Skill and Gigabyte. Gigabyte, I don't know what's up with them. I think they're basically mainly a Chinese company or something, but they don't even respond. Their customer service is really lackluster. G-Skill, on the other hand, responded like within a day, and they said, yeah, that memory should work. So, and it does. I got lucky. Power supply, it's the Corsair RM1000X, 1000 watt power supply. Radiators, I got a Slim 420 in the ceiling, an EK SC 420, and EK PE 360 in the front. Push-pull. Those are Noiseblocker SP120s, or not SP120s, but they're the 120mm noise blockers. And my route, my plumbing, this is my first loop. I mean, I'm not like a PC builder. I've been wanting to do this for a while. This is my first loop, and I not to toot my own horn too much, but I'm really happy with the way it came out. I routed all the lines behind the motherboard tray, and it just came out really nice. It looks very clean. There's no kinks in the hoses anywhere, and I got this thing just. I'm so happy because I had no problems. There were so many potential problems, one could expect when doing something like this. I mean, for example, the memory could be incompatible. It might not even post. The motherboard could be bad. One of the parts could get lost in shipping. You could spring a leak. You could be an idiot and not leak test your. You could be an idiot and leak test your whole system with everything powered up and your PSU sitting underneath. Actually, I got lucky. There was no leaks, not a single leak. And my airflow, these two 140 millimeter fans are intake. This one's just positioned down here. And everything else is exhausting out of the case. Yeah, very nice. And I like this case because it'll take a 420 in the ceiling, and that's a slim one. I could like run a thicker 420 rad and do push pull. The problem with that would be, do you see how much clearance there is there? Excuse me. Yeah, so there's like, you got about 2 inches there between on the top of the memory and the rad there, but I just like, I like how spacious it is, and I like how unobtrusive the rad is. Like, it's not hanging down in front of the motherboard. Yeah, that's the monoblock. That's EK's Z370. It's actually a Z270, and it works for the Z370 board. So anyone who's wondering if this monoblock works, it works. And the performance is just phenomenal. The CPU is by way of Silicon Lottery. I didn't buy it from them. I bought it from Newegg, 415, sent it to Silicon Lottery, had them bin and delit it. And they binned it at they binned it at 5.1 gigahertz, negative 2 AVX offset at 1.412 volt. But they did that binning with their own qualified vendor list, which included, you know, ASRock's Taichi and a few other motherboards, among which the motherboard I'm using was not on, not among. So this, I think I'm getting away with more because of this motherboard's 10-phase VRM MOSFET, which I believe just provides a cleaner power, and that aids stability greatly. And with the monoblock, the VRMs don't get any hotter than the core gets. So if the core gets to 45, 50 C, which is what I usually see in games, that's what the VRMs are running at. But I'm able to get away with 5.1 gigahertz, negative 1 AVX offset at 1.375 to 1.386 volt, according to software, according to HWinfo 64. I haven't taken a multimeter to the board, but, you know, margin of error, it's around there. But I can run that frequency with less voltage, but right now it requires that much voltage because I'm using dynamic offset, which I like because I do mining in the day and I'm not always gaming, and I don't like my voltage sitting at 1.32, 1.34 plus volt, you know, all day. Because there's a guide out right now for this motherboard and the CPU, and the guide recommends, you know, disabling C states and EIST. You know, they claim that there's that having those enabled may impact the stability of the system. I haven't had those issues. I'm running this stable on dynamic. I've done Prime 95. I've yet to get a blue screen in that. I've yet to get a blue screen in any game. It's stable. I've had this put together for about a week now. Windows 10, and I'm a die-hard Windows 7 holdout. But I like Windows 10. It's nice. There's some new features that I like, and I just like how it's a bit more snappier and it boots much quicker. And I've hopefully disabled all the telemetry garbage. But yeah, one thing I don't like about Windows 10 is that indexing is completely broken. I had to download a third-party program called Everything just to search my computer for files and stuff. That's the only thing I like about Windows 10. But I got that for sale on Kenguin if anyone's interested. 30 bucks. So the case. This case is Thermaltake's View 71. And when I was researching cases, well, let me preface this by saying that I wanted to do all this and that, but the Air 540, although it's great for airflow, it's just such a tight case. I could have only fit like a 240 mil of rad in the ceiling, and I wanted more rad surface area for one, and I would have had to have mounted the reservoir in the back on top of the PSU, and it just seemed like it was janky. I didn't want to do this build in that case, so I went ahead and splurged, and I got a new case, and I love this case. The other contenders were Fantech's not their Evolve ATX, but I think it's their Pro M. I'm sorry, the Phanteks Enthoo Pro M, which is basically shares the same chassis as the Evolve ATX, but in the front, on that case, there's a mesh here, and on the top, which I liked because, in my opinion, the Evolve ATX, especially in the ceiling, it suffocates you. Like if you're going to run a radiator up there, people are having to modify the case, or they're having to spend like $100 for people who fabricate like custom top panels, because otherwise all that heat gets trapped in the top. And what I like about the Thermaltake's View 71 is that you can have everything. You have your tempered glass, you have airflow, you have breathability, because you have these huge gaps between the glass and the chassis, and you have you have massive ample space for radiator support. Like I can literally fit a 420 in the front, and I could do two 420s in this. I happen to have the 360 and the 420, and I'm rocking the 360, which I like. But you could do two 420s. And this top bracket here is actually adjustable. Right here, this moves this way, so you can clear RAM, on your motherboard, etc. But I love this case. So the Phanteks case is one case I was looking at, and I did a lot of research, and I decided against that one because there was going to be some space constraint issues right here in between the front rad and the reservoir. Now I have my reservoir mounted like this because it's so close to the top, and with as much space as I have right here, I can put my funnel and I can fill that reservoir right here. I can just take this glass panel off, and I can fill the reservoir right there, and my drain port is down here. Okay, so now what I do when I want to drain is I can turn that about 45 degrees counterclockwise. It's not gonna do anything, and I can just attach a compression fitting with some of this flexible tubing to it, and I can run that out to like a bucket. So filling and draining for future, is I have that under control. A lot of people, they put together a loop and they forget this this spigot here. A lot of people are like, oh fuck. And what you want to do too, if anyone is contemplating doing a loop, you want your drain port to be at the bottom of the loop. I see people make this mistake all the time. Like they have their drain port, like first, like they'll orient their front mounted rad where the in and out is on the top. And dude, so when it comes time to drain your loop, you get all this water in that radiator that doesn't want to come out. So you have to physically remove the radiator and drain that, and it's a pain in the butt. So you really want your drain to be at the very bottom of the loop, which I do have. It's at the bottom of the loop. Yeah, so I decided against the Phanteks Evolve, not Evolve, but the other one. Yeah, because of the space. And then the other one that could fit everything that I looked at and I really came close to pulling the trigger on was Be Quiet's Dark Bass Pro 900. And I decided against that one ultimately because the airflow is just abysmal. There's everyone's complaining about, everyone's running water cooling and they got the top mounted rad, and everyone's talking about how they've had to literally modify the top of the case, make cutouts because the case can't breathe. This case breathes fantastic. Right now, and it's mining. I'm mining on NiceHash, full bore, 100% PT, 280 watts. I will be quiet. Let's see if we can hear anything. You can't hear anything. I don't run my fans more than 40% RPM. So it's quiet. So the Dark Bass Pro, their rationale for all of that padding and stuff on the inside is to make the case quiet. But it's just a suffocating design. I don't know why the new designers are doing this, why they're offering these cases that just suffocate your components and they're just not liquid cooling friendly. Yeah, sure, it'll take a radiator. That case will take a radiator in the top, but if it can't breathe, that radiator is useless. If that radiator can't push that heat out of the case, that radiator is useless. And that's another thing too. My philosophy is I like my rads pushing heat out of the case. I don't pump heat into the case. I know the argument for positive pressure. If you're going with this case, you're not going to ever accomplish positive pressure because it's not restrictive enough. With these massive gaps here, you're never going to accomplish positive pressure. And the whole argument for positive pressure is that, you know, oh, you prevent dust buildup in your system. Dude, I have this thing here. I don't even buy compressed air. I have this thing here. We're sitting right behind the computer. And I go in there about every week or two, and I just blow everything out. It's about 4 or 5 times more powerful than a can of compressed air. Doesn't cost me anything. I blow everything out, and that's it. That's it. That's done deal. End of story. No dust, dude. And the thing with the Thermaltake View 71 is that this glass door, which I also like, which other cases don't do, this glass door is on hinges. It's really nice. Let me show you. It's super nice. Thumb screws, just like that. I'm not doing a case review. There's much better case reviews. Look, it's on hinges. That's it. Let me get a better look in here. Yeah, so that's how I have my fan. And this pump is actually RGB, but it's too bright. I tried it and it's just way too bright. But yeah. And it's funny, EK says that you can't use your FE backplate. Well, that's an FE backplate. Everyone knows that. You just use the old standoffs. Okay, so on to the performance. Performance in game is mind-blowing. I mentioned that I had a CPU bottleneck before. Okay, let me give you some examples of that CPU bottleneck. Grand Theft Auto 5, running 3D vision, looking out over Franklin's balcony towards downtown Los Santos. I was seeing about, you know, a CPU bottleneck limited 30 FPS in 3D vision, which is about 60 FPS 2D. But that's because of the 3D vision 3-core bug. Anyone who knows about 3D vision knows about what I'm talking about. Basically, when you run 3D vision on any game, the whole game is now rendered on 3 cores. We don't know what's going on. NVIDIA sucks in this regard. Now, that was with the 4930K 30 FPS. Now I'm seeing 52 FPS there. Running Breath of the Wild on CMU. Out at, there's one demanding area that I've made it to so far in the game. I'm not very far in the game, but one demanding area would be dueling peak stables with the 4930K at 4.5 gigahertz and the 1080 Ti. I shouldn't even mention the 1080 Ti because it's basically CPU bottleneck. I was seeing 23 to 25 FPS at dueling peak stables. Now I'm seeing 40 FPS. If I stand still, 42, 43. So it's, dude, it's like, it's more than 50%. Firestrike CPU with the 4930K at 4.5 gigahertz. Hey all YouTube, I'm back again. Sorry about that. Ran out of memory on my phone while recording the last video, so I'm gonna have to split this in two. I was getting into performance. Yeah, it's a marked improvement in performance, anywhere from 50 to nearly 100% improvement depending on the application and benchmark. Firestrike CPU went from 16,700 to 22,300. Combined went from 8,500 to 11,700. Geez, the games. Yeah, CMU, I think I already went over that. Went from 25 to 40 FPS, 50% improvement at least. Dragon Age Inquisition, there's one village out in the hinterlands where there's a griffin statue. I had a CPU bottleneck there where I was not getting like 60 FPS with like 60-70% GPU utilization. It was a severe CPU bottleneck. I didn't even know what was behind it, just poor optimization. Now with the 8700K, I'm getting 90 FPS there with like 100% utilization. So, you know, if anyone out there is contemplating just adding like a powerful GPU to their system and you're running like an older CPU, like a 4770K, because that's basically a 4770K, 4790K, that's basically a quad-core 4930K. You're going to have to, you're going to have to upgrade your CPU. Otherwise, you will experience CPU bottleneck. Anyhow, let's look at the cooling performance. I love this angle here. It's very nice. You can give you guys a better look at it. AK Vardar. These are the silent ones, the ones that only do 1100 RPM. And what I like, initially when I was configuring the RGB, I noticed that the G-Skill memory was incompatible with Gigabyte's RGB Fusion software, and that actually turned out to be a blessing in disguise because it does these really beautiful color combinations like you're seeing. I like it like this versus being all synced up. Like you get some really beautiful combinations. Like you'll have like blue with the red and yellow and green. Occasionally it will all sync up, and it's really nice. So onto the performance thermals. There's an issue with my phone refusing to focus here, but right there in the taskbar you can see that first number there. That's the GPU temp. I'm running NiceHash. Yeah, that's with that figure there. That's a single 1080 Ti, and yeah, the 8700K. This is my primary machine, and yeah. So first figure there, that's the core temp. Second figure is the frequency. It's around 1900 megahertz because I'm on Lyra 2 Rev 2. If I do echo hash, it does 2000 megahertz. Now this is with an undervolt, mind you. Yeah. So these kind of thermals, they allow you to get away with murder in terms of stability. So I'm gonna hit Control F here to show you guys. This is with the undervolt. So you can see my voltage here. Right here, that's not even one millivolt. I'm sorry, it's not even 1 volt. That's 950 millivolts. Right here where it's at. So it's doing 1900 megahertz at 950 millivolts. And this is rock solid. I've yet to experience a display driver failure. I'll close this out because I'm going to show you the stability. Because right now, like I think I was trying to get into, that basically the consensus or the conventional wisdom is that you can't run dynamic voltage with this motherboard and this chip if you want stability. I'm doing it, and I think it's because of my temps. But so here's Prime 95, small FFT. First, let's go get a look at the baseline. It's been mining right there. You see that? That time there? That's 22 hours. Okay, I've been mining for 22 hours since my last reset. Peak core, peak GPU temp. Let's see if I can get that. Peak GPU temp to show you guys. 40 degrees, peak GPU. Okay. Average 37 degrees. That's in the GPU. Peak CPU, because I was playing last night. There, those are my CPU peaks. That's running around in PlanetSide 2, Breath of the Wild on Simu, and a few other games. Those are my CPU peaks for the last 24 hours, essentially. Yeah, and if I can find my VRM for you guys. There's vCore. Yeah, you got some temps down here. It might indicate the VRM. Yeah, VRM MOS MOSFET, 41 degrees. Excellent temperatures. The monoblock is just fantastic. Let's run Prime 95, see what happens. So, actually, I just want to show you guys how offset voltage works. So you see right here, I like offset because, yeah, right there, 1 volt. That's what it does. I'm mining kryptonite right now with my CPU. I got 2 devices implicated here. You see that? Kryptonite, boom. Yeah. And the way I can give you guys a pointer for those who want to run an offset, the way you get away with it not being pegged at 5 gigahertz here is that you run a power plan in Windows with max processor power of 99%, and that prevents it from going to 5 gigahertz. It'll do 3.6 or so. So I'll show you guys what happens under load. This load here isn't indicative of a load I would see in a game. This is so I'm gonna run Prime 95. I love this screen here. I'm gonna run Prime 95 while I'm mining kryptonite. Show you guys. Oh, you know what? I have to change power plans. Hold on. I got my shit set up on hotkey. Control Alt 1. Boom. Okay, there we go. 5 gigahertz under AVX instruction set. There's my temps. There's my voltage, 1.386 volt. Now in game it doesn't do 1.386 volt unless it's really an adequate AVX instruction set. It'll do about 1.34, 1.32. But I prefer this over I prefer this over running just static voltage of 1.34 plus volts 24/7 because voltage is voltage. I don't want to pump 1.34 volt through my chip 24/7 because I mine and do other stuff. Let's get a sample of the acoustics under full load. That's full system duress. I'm mining 100% on the GPU. I'm running Prime 95 and Kryptonite. Full system duress. It's basically inaudible. I'm not kidding. There's the fans, 40% RPM. All you can really hear is just a very subdued kind of low level buzz slash hum of the pump res. It's the only noise coming from the system. And when my 4 terabyte 3¼ inch hard drive that's mounted to the back of the motherboard tray wants to come on, that's the only noise I hear. Anyhow, I'm gonna shut this down. I'm sorry, I'm gonna shut Prime 95 down because there's no point in. Oh yeah, let's look at the temps. There you go, 50 degrees. Now, if I wasn't delidded and under this much radiator surface area, that would be like 75 degrees already. That would be 75 degrees. So I'm gonna include instructions as to how to run dynamic voltage. I recommend it if you have the cooling overhead like I do. Because again, when you have this much cooling overhead, you can get away with murder like I am. I like it better because I don't want voltage running through my chip 24/7. That's just me. Voltage plus time, or voltage times time equals silicon migration. It's how you degrade silicon, whether it's a GPU or a CPU. I kind of know what I'm talking about in this regard because my Air 540 build here is going on 4 years. Okay, 4 years, 4.5 gigahertz at 1.375 volt. All right. Let me see, I'm gonna shut this down. Stop, exit. And here's what I love about the power plans. When I wanna go back, see, still 5 gigahertz. I got my power plan set up on hotkey. Control, Alt, 2, boom. Look at that. I can show you how to do that too. Set up your power plans on hotkey. And this thing is, ever since I've built this new machine, I don't know if it's because NiceHash has come back online, but I'm not kidding. Right here, what I'm looking at, these are my earnings when I had both the 1080 Ti and the 980 Ti together in my Air 540 with the 4930K. That's what I was making. I'm making that plus 50% of that. I'm making about 12 bucks a day or 50 cents an hour. This right here, this balance, that's for 30 hours of mining. Because I've been busy, getting games to run and this and that, and just it is when you build a new computer. There's a lot of stuff that goes on. You got to reinstall all your games. You got to try to remember what programs you had that you liked, and etc., and work out all the eccentricities of the OS. Windows 10 is a very quirky OS. Search doesn't work. I had to use this program here. I use this program called Everything, which I also have on hotkey. This program is what I have to use now instead of trying to do search. On Windows 7, you used to be able to hit Windows key and F and it would do something like this. But now, if I can't put the phone down to show you, but if I hit Windows key and I type anything down here, I've already disabled Cortana. But if I hit Windows key and this comes up, search Windows doesn't work. It won't look through File Explorer. I've rebuilt the index. I've done everything. I've done the troubleshooting. It's broken. Anyways, don't want to drag this on for too long. All I have to say is, man, I love it, and it's easier than I thought it would be. I've had no problems. If you can swing it out the door, we're looking at, not counting the 1080 Ti, which I already had, you're looking at about, let's see, 700 for the full loop, about 150 for the motherboard, which I got with the rebate. I got lucky. I got everything during Black Friday. RAM is about 150. The processor, including the binning and delitting from Silicon Lottery, was about nearly $500. But you're looking at, I would say, around $2,000. PSU is like another 120 or so. I think I got a rebate for that as well. I had most of the fans. I already had the Noiseblocker fans. I had to buy the EK Vardars, and I bought one more of these. I had two of these because I had these on the NZXT X41 AIOs. I had two of these on those AIOs in my Air 540. But man, I love this build. It's quiet. It's just mind blowing in terms of the aesthetics, the looks, the performance. It's literally, I'm not kidding. So this with the 1080 Ti, 8700K and 1080 Ti is 50% faster than my old computer in terms of CPU processing power and GPU processing power. And it just, if you've seen my other build videos, I mean, this is just, it's just, wow. It's 50% faster and it just looks amazing. And now I'm getting acquainted with Windows 10, and this is just a very exciting time for me, and I just wanted to share this with you guys. And I will include, again, instructions as to how to get dynamic voltage going for everyone out there with this motherboard and this chip. I'm stable, dude. I know you guys say you can't do it. I'm stable, and I love how my voltage doesn't shoot up to 1.4 volt all the time. I'm sorry, 1.35 or whatever you need for your chip. I love not having to run it at that voltage all the time. And yeah, it's just one other setting with that I will include in the notes is that LLC, load line calibration, is it compensation or calibration? LLC, I have it set to low. If I set that to turbo, my voltage goes ridiculous. It goes to like 1.475 volt, and it's just ridiculous. So LLC to low, dynamic voltage, I think it's either on auto, and I am running a negative offset of 0.095 volt. Those are pretty much the three key settings. Everything else you leave the same. You know, your EIST and C states, leave them all factory auto, and yeah, you can accomplish this if you got the cooling overhead. All right, I don't want to drag this on because I have a tendency to make super long videos and just you're probably falling asleep already. But yeah, this is my channel update. This is my build update. Blown away. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you guys need any, have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section below, and like the video if you liked it. I don't update the channel very regularly or very often, so I can't recommend subscribing. But yeah, I was just making the video to share this with people on various forums, because I think there's a misconception going around right now that you have to run static voltage with this chip and this motherboard for it to be stable, and that's not the case. I'm stable, and I like the dynamic voltage. All right, thanks for watching. Bye bye.